Um, Today we're going to be talking about the Age of Enlightenment. This is an age that's dear to my heart. It just sparks. It sparks kind of like my imagination. I read a book. I didn't really finish it, but it was called The Baroque Cycle by Neil Stephenson. If you haven't read it or haven't heard of it, strongly recommend it. Even though it's a bit of a tough read and hard to finish, even if you read 100 or 200 or 300 pages of it, you'll have fun. It really talks about these cats, all these wigs here, all these big wigs. I don't know if it's these guys in particular, but it talks about this period, and it really struck my curiosity and my fascination with the stuff that was going around at this period of time. Descartes, of course, Kant. Never heard of this guy. Heard of this guy, John Locke. Huge influential person on, I think, the founding fathers as well. Anyways, let's dig into this wonderful topic. So the Age of Enlightenment, also called the Age of Reason, or just the Enlightenment, was a European intellectual and philosophical movement active from the late 17th all the way to the early 19th. So 17th to early 19th, which puts us smack dab in what's called the modern era of humanity. The modern era. This, of course, starting roughly, super roughly, at around the 1500s. Historians start to call this period of human history. They start to call it the modern era. So we're in the modern era. This is the late 17th century, chiefly valuing knowledge gained through rationalism and empiricism. Empiricism, I think, is just using experiments rather, to corroborate your scientific findings and update your scientific findings and validate your scientific findings. So it's using knowledge gained by rationalism and empiricism. Notice that we're not seeing devotion or sacrifice or what else? Mysticism and using omens and so on. This is using rationalism and empiricism, okay? The Enlightenment was concerned with a wide range of social and political ideals, such as natural law, liberty, progress, toleration, fraternity, constitutional government, and the formal separation of church and state, something that is a real issue, okay? Especially in places like the Middle East, where, for example, right now there's the American-Iranian/Israeli conflict that is actually, at the day of this recording, has come to some sort of Deus Ex Machina style ceasefire. But my point being, a country like Iran, I actually haven't done an episode about the Iranian Revolution, but Iran has not separated the church and state. For example, they very much have the church intertwined with the dealings of the state, and they're quite connected. If I'm not mistaken, okay, I could be mistaken. I also think Israel has a fair bit of mixing of church and state. I think so. And I wonder if the United States has it. I think to a lesser degree, but perhaps to some degree. Perhaps there's some degree where there is a mix of church and state. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under... What? No? Under God, right? So maybe there is a bit of a mix there. So, the Enlightenment was preceded by and overlapped the scientific revolution, okay, which includes the works of Kepler, Galilei, Bacon, Gassendi, who actually don't know who's Gassendi. So Gassendi was a French philosopher, also a Catholic priest, which is interesting. I mean, priests were doing science. Okay, it's just a fact. Also, today there's a lot of famous scientists who are religious, but especially in those days. So he was a mathematician, astronomer, and he, I guess, had some breakthroughs. He was an observational scientist. Huygens, Newton, and in the realm of philosophy, we have people like Descartes, Hobbes, Spinoza, Leibniz, and Locke. The dating of the period of the beginning of the Enlightenment. So now historians are trying to date it. They're trying to say, let's put it in a box in terms of when does it, clearly start and when does it end. Not always easy. So the period, they often date the beginning with the publication of this book, the Discourse on the Method, in 1637. With his method of systematically disbelieving everything, unless there was a real well-founded reason for accepting it, and featuring his famous dictum, cogito ergo sum, there I think, therefore I am. Gosh. I wonder if there's any value in reading this in 2025. If you have, or have tried, let me know in the comments. So that is one, mark for the beginning, with that book, 1637. Others cite the publications of the Principia Mathematica in 1687. I think there's a really good channel called Tibby's. Maybe I'll write it down. I think it's called Tibby's. This Kiwi. Yeah, that's a B. Anyways, Tibby's. It's a YouTube channel. You should check it out. I think she has a deep dive into the Principia Mathematica. Highly recommended. I think I watched it a while ago. So, others cite this Principia Mathematica as the culmination of the scientific revolution, the beginning of the Enlightenment. So, when that was published, we get the end of the scientific and the beginning of the Enlightenment. Another one, historians traditionally date it as the beginning of Louis XIV of France, his death in 1715, and then the epic of the French Revolution in 89. So you can kind of just put it in French terms, just French history. We have Louis XIV, and then we have the French Revolution in 1789. All right. Oh, and then there's one more. So one other proposed end, or start. Start of the 19th century. So that's another end. Proposed end is the start of the 19th. And the latest proposed being the death of Immanuel Kant in 1804. All right. So, philosophers and scientists of the period widely circulated the ideas through meetings at scientific academies, Masonic lodges. I think this is from Freemasons. I'm not keeping up with my thing. Freemasons. Of course, these are like secretive societies that were prevalent in Europe, as well as coffee houses. Coffee houses is pretty cool because today, what do the youth do? They go to raves, right? They go to raves. They try drugs, hot drugs like MD. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Sorry, folks. Anyways, I'm trying to do some rough, terrible analogy to like modern folks, but I'm kind of running out of things. But anyways, today we have drugs, right? We have MD. Why is that the only one that I'm saying? There's other drugs. Coke, maybe. Psilocybin, ecstasy, all kinds. Back in the day, they didn't have any of that crap. But they had this mild stimulant, coffee, right? It was totally exotic to these people in Europe. This coffee from a faraway land, you would drink it and sort of get this mild stimulant sensation. And it was huge. It was really booming in like this era, and there was these coffee houses where people would come and just talk about stuff. Super cool. See if I can do a highlight on it. Yeah, coffee houses. Anyways, super cool. So this is a place where people would meet up. Also, printed books, journals, pamphlets. These are other ways that the ideas were proliferated. The ideas of the Enlightenment undermined the authority of the monarchy, and religious officials, and paved the way for political revolutions and political revolutions of the 18th and 19th century. Yeah, we're talking about the French Revolution. We're also talking about the American Revolution, I think. The variety of the 19th century movements, including liberalism, socialism, neoclassicism, trace their intellectual heritage to the Enlightenment. Neoclassicalism, I think that's like, I'm not sure what that is. I have to read into that. The Enlightenment was marked by an increasing awareness of the relationship between the mind and the everyday media of the world, and by emphasis on the scientific method and reductionism, along with increased questioning of religious dogma. Dogma being something that we say you must accept it as monolithic and true forever and always. And then Enlightenment thinkers are like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any goddamn sense. An attitude captured by Kant's essay answering the question, what is the Enlightenment? Where this phrase, dare to know, can be found. Last paragraph, summing it up. Central doctrines of the Enlightenment were individual liberty and representative government, the rule of law, religious freedom, and in contrast to absolute monarchy or single-party state, and the religious persecution of faiths, and other than those formally established and often controlled outright by the state. By contrast, other intellectual currents included arguments in favor of anti-Christianity, deism, or even atheism, compared by demands for secular states, something that I find very important to some degree. Religious education, suppressing of monasteries, the suppression of Jesuits, and the expulsion of religious orders. Contemporary criticism, particularly of these anti-religious concepts, has been dubbed the Counter-Enlightenment by Sir Isaiah Berlin. Folks, I had a wonderful time reading this, but I'm done. You guys should check out this article, although it's not a very good article, but it is an article. I do want to say something. I am a small channel, and it would be very helpful for me if you found this at all interesting or valuable, to please subscribe. Okay, I'm doing my shameless plug because I need you. My channel, which is called Wiki with Me, is very small. We're tiny, but we want to get bigger, and we need your help. So please subscribe if you found any value to this whatsoever. Wiki with Me is signing out.